So it protects the community from otherwise the repercussions of their decisions in an electoral process and outside their social environment.
Thank you. Now, what measures has IEBC put in place to guarantee the secrecy of the vote at the polling stations? Maybe you can share some of the measures.
They caution us first outside the polling station. They ensure that the persons that are attending to you are non-partisan. Party agents, party mobilization, and party and candidate supporters are far off the polling station. They don't get into the premises. As you walk in, they ensure that everyone who is handling you, right from the queuing clerk to the presiding officer, to the other clerks within a polling station, are not biased towards any of the candidates standing therein. As you get your ballot, they ensure that there is no bias in the register they use. And as you go to select your choice, they protect you by giving you or reading you to a booth where your selection is not visible to anyone, so that you're able to then select your candidate, put your tick or X. They'll have trained you earlier on how to forward your ballot, and without showing the contents of it, put it in the correct ballot box. As you walk out again, everyone along the way and out of the station is unbiased. So that protects your secrecy.
Thank you. And how about the design of the ballot itself? How does it ensure that secrecy?
The ballot, one, gives you, of course, the numbers and the name of where you're voting. And it also has features such as the photo of the person or the persons that are vying for that election. It also gives you their names so that you're able to make an informed choice from the image or the names of the candidates. So you're able to then tick or put a mark on your candidate of choice.
Thank you. Now, after casting that ballot, are you able thereafter to know who voted? Like, are you able to identify the voter? That's what I was trying to look at.
No, you can't, because if you write your name on the ballot, it becomes it's not counted. It becomes a non-vote for you. So it's not possible to know that candidate X voted for who. I saw that during the first multi-party election, yes, and that led to a lot of spoiled votes.
So that's also another way of ensuring the secrecy.
Yes.
Okay. Now, let's go to Article 54(2) of the Constitution. It requires the state to ensure the progressive implementation of the principle that at least 5% of the members of the public in elective and appointive bodies are persons with disabilities. Okay? What do you understand by progressive implementation?
This means that was not to be implemented immediately after the promulgation of the Constitution, because it was a process that was going to take time. You realize that persons with disabilities have to go through a registration process so that they are vetted for the different types of disabilities and the degrees of the same. So this was not to happen instantaneously because it required then the vetting bodies to take time. Number two, it wasn't also to be instantaneous in the sense that the performance of the persons with disability has to be evaluated in the sphere of that institution. For example, if it was to be in the commission, there is need to first evaluate the environment through which these people are going to play a role. So that if it is an institution that cannot, for example, allow some disabilities to access its premise, then they are given time to change such an environment to allow the disabled individuals to participate. So that it wasn't also to make the government like unconstitutional by not adhering to this call for 5% disability mainstreaming. So this, just like the gender mainstreaming, was given a clause to take time.
Okay. Thank you. And what measures have been put in place to achieve this?
I see a lot of advocacy towards gender mainstreaming, especially in government. Every year, government institutions report back to their mainstream ministries on aspects of such issues as gender mainstreaming and gender mainstreaming. And this compels such institutions to progressively show some change from previous reporting system. There is a call all the time for this mainstreaming in such institutions in government and also in public sector. I also see a lot of advocacy happening in the institutional framework and also in the physical development of infrastructure that allows the disability mainstreaming to be practiced in many institutions.
Okay, maybe you may need to look at the issue of party lists. Okay?
Yes, on party list, yes.
Yes, as one of the ways that this is going to be realized, party list, and also on the issue of nomination fees, there have been some subsidies that have been given to PWDs. Okay, now registration of voters and revision of the register of voters is required to be undertaken at all times. However, there are certain instances where the Commission is expressly prohibited from registering voters. What are these instances?
The Commission is not allowed to register voters when there is a call for a by-election, from the time of declaration to the time of that election. The Commission is also prohibited from carrying out voter registration 3 months to a general election or to a referendum, so that gives time for the register to be verified and gazetted.
Okay. Lastly, what is a stray ballot?
I'm not sure, but I would think a stray ballot would be that ballot in the long ballot box. But I'm not very sure on that.
I'm not very sure.
Yes.
You're right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Solonka. I'll now request Madam Elizabeth Mayo to ask her questions.
Okay, thank you, Chair. Good morning once more, Dr. Kangepe.
Good morning,
Okay.
Madam.
From your introductory remarks, you told us that you are an advocate for gender equality.
Yes.
Am I right?
Yes.
Okay, in your view, do you think the level of participation of women in the electoral process meets your expectation?
Madam Mayor, I would say no, because except in the county government where I saw adherence to 30% gender rule through nomination in many instances, women in politics, especially in parliamentary and also county governor elections, has been dismal. And this is mainly because of, one, the electoral environment that faces them, especially at the party primaries, and also at the point of when they want to be independent candidates, because the requirement there is quite stringent, that doesn't favor the gender participation. On the electoral process, the electors mainly are influenced by money sometimes, and where money is involved, in many cases, such environments seem not to be very peaceful. And especially women in politics tend to shy away from non-peaceful environments. And so I would say because of their level of would I say, resilience in such a hostile environment, and the levels of endowment, that is in terms of the funds available to them, there is a reduced level of participation of the female gender in elections in Kenya. However, that could be solved if IEBC did make an effort towards supporting the gender question by maybe facilitating rallies for election purposes. Maybe there would be a policy that favors them so that they're able to participate.
Okay, thank you. Let me give you some statistics from the 2017 general election. Women candidates numbered 1,300 out of a total of 14,523 candidates. That gives a 9% participation, if you do your maths well. And only out of the 1,300, only 172, 13% were elected. Yeah? Out of that, 3 women were elected as governors and 3 women senators were also elected for the first time in the history of Kenya. A youth was also elected as a governor. 8 people with disabilities were also elected to the office. Political participation, therefore, for women, youth, and people with disabilities fell short of international standards and actually failed to meet Kenya's constitutional requirements, especially the 1/3 gender quota. Do you agree with me, Dr. Kang'ethe?
Yes, I do.
So, of particular concern, which we want you to address, is that women and other special group interests were especially vulnerable to violence. If you are appointed commissioner to the IEBC, why is it important that we ensure that political participation of all sections of the society should be taken into account? Why do you think it's important?
It is important because it shows that we have internal democracy that is free and fair and that gives everyone an equal opportunity. So I think on this, yes, we are falling short of the global expectation, the constitutional expectation, because of violence, as you said. But this is something that would cure from IEBC, especially, and I insist again, this violence is seen during mainly nomination, where women are not able to penetrate the nomination cycle. If only this was undertaken by IEBC, this would give them a chance because you don't necessarily have them to partake of the violent groups. Your name will still be on the ballot. But when it comes to political parties, they do not have institutions that protect the female gender. Political parties are not compelled, except at the submission of their party lists, where they're supposed to give 1/3 gender participation, which in many cases, political parties will give the female gender in such areas where they are not strong. So it becomes very easy to fix in names their own. But they will not have given this female gender a chance for competitive politics at the party primaries. If this was given a chance to be done by IEBC, we would get closer. We wouldn't achieve it yet because of the money issue, especially because the ladies in many cases, especially the rural women, don't have the resources required to partake of the political process.
Thank you, Dr. Kang'ethe. From your response, do you support the use of money at any given point in electoral process? Because you have said one factor that is stopping women from participation is maybe lack of funds. So what is your view on that?
The use of money is justified in the political process because when a politician goes out there to try and sell out his policies, he's just like a salesman of a product in the commercial world. And so he needs really to sell his policies using every other technique that can be used out there, including advertisement, mobilization, hiring of venues, putting up billboards and placards, all that, Facebook and all that. So, of course, there's a justification for use of money during the process. However, maybe the campaign financing role should come in and make that expenditure very structured so that whoever wants to use money, for example, to cue young people and give them a few coins will have to justify such an illegal activity. It would rather be that maybe the youths were employed to carry out an environmental friendly activity by that individual, and then they were compensated for their time and effort. Maybe the regulations to that Campaign Financing Act should structure the use of these resources in such a way that that directly benefits the populace. So it's not just left at the behest of the politician to devise the most probable way of attracting, especially young people, to himself, a fate that makes him appear very popular among the voters.
Okay, thank you. You've also told us that sometimes women don't participate, maybe because of violence, hostile environments. So if you are appointed, would you think you will bring on board to ensure that IEBC will address the issue of violence in elections?
I would, for example, mainly bring in the issue of voter education, either directly or with stakeholders. I would also bring in civil education, though not a direct function of IEBC. I would partner with the right government ministry to do civil education, especially on the law of the female gender in matters election. And on voter education, I would make sure that the curriculum sensitizes the populace on individual female gender who have succeeded, because many times they devise a curriculum without reference. You have correctly told me that 3 governors won this position. It would be a time for that to be brought out and be shown how these 3 female governors have performed compared to their male counterparts. So in voter education, we do not necessarily have to just think in terms of the right of the voter or the right of the public. We also need to benefit the public by giving them success stories. So on civic education, I find bodies that are going around our community that could be very useful in educating our populace on issues of the female gender. Okay,
thank you, Dr. Kanyete. So in your view, which stakeholders would you engage in this way to promote the interest of the participation of the special interest groups?
I would use the Gender Council. I know they do support such effort, and see who the other stakeholders I would use. I would also approach such bodies as International Federation of Electoral Systems, IFS, for mainly funding for activities in especially advocacy for the participation of that female gender. I know there are other stakeholders that do participate in such endeavors. I would actually quickly sit down and look through a list of who then has interest in the female gender advocacy. But on the protection of the female gender, I would need to approach the Ministry of Interior, maybe the police force, to do more of the protection for the female gender, especially in the activities. Maybe there would be a policy within the security policy of IEBC to ensure that the female gender is given extra protection during that electioneering period, so that will not make them shy away from the electoral environment.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Ari. Back to your role at Kiambu County. Between 2017 and 2020, you were the executive committee member for education, culture, gender and social services, am I right?
Yes.
Yes. So based on your skills during that period,
when you say a customer came to you and requested for offering those services? Yes. And were those services being offered at the reception area? Yes. When you say customer, what do you mean?
A client.
A client. Yeah, got him the reception. To the best of your knowledge, saying or mentioning or calling him a client, was this person a person who had booked, or what do you mean when you say a client? Was this a person who was residing at SIGNET, or what do you mean?
No, it was someone, okay, he got me in the reception, so he had walked in.
So he walked in the hotel?
Yes.
And got you at the reception?
Yes.
And where at the reception, were you alone?
Yes.
When he found you at the reception, what did the client require?
He wanted some transactions for M-Pesa, and he requested me. He didn't have a Safaricom line, so he requested me to assist him send some money using my Safaricom line.
So he told you he didn't have a Safaricom line, and he requested you to do what?
To use my Airtel, my Safaricom line, to do some transaction to a number that he would give me.
And was this person a common client, or how would you describe this person?